Hey you guys, I wanted to come on here and talk about this article from Atlanta Black Star, and it's something that becomes vexing and exasperating when you think about the state of our community and how our race is perpetually at the bottom of the social totem pole. The worst part about it is that black women in these circumstances are never given even the slightest respite and suffer at exceedingly high rates, but it's always overlooked because typically the only time social media highlights the apex of Black Lives Matter is when black men have either tragically lost their life or face some discriminatory action while simultaneously disregarding the plight of black women or making very little mention of their experiences. And the reason I say all of this is because this article makes mention of a black woman being forcibly ripped out of her SUV along with her children by police officers. And this is problematic because there's a family in this vehicle, and anytime a situation involves children, these visual actions have the capacity to cause real life psychological trauma to their development because it shapes their perception of the world early on, and it causes them to be fearful and scared, and pretty much you can say that it scars them when they're exposed to such an ordeal. And children too can also develop depression from young ages as a result of trauma. And what we fail to realize is that they internalize these feelings and act out in an erratic manner because their true feelings have been suppressed from that time onward. And I keep hearing all over these social spaces about how there's all of these good cops, but for the thousandth time, I'm failing to see where these cops are because to me, when one or two of these officers use excessive force and others are around to intervene but choose not to, understand that neutrality in these situations is synonymous with complicity, therefore eliminating a significant portion of those good cops. And I feel like that at this point, you guys kind of know my stance on this situation, and obviously the solution to this isn't through voting, because if voting worked the way that it was supposed to for black people, then this pattern of police brutality would have already ceased. But because of the mentality of the larger society, they won't do that because one thing that benefits them in that regard is your fear of them. And this is heavily reinforced through their military forces and law enforcement. They need for you to believe that if you are anything but subservient to their domineering rule, then you don't deserve to exist in their world. And so extermination through this corrupted system or intimidation is necessary to emphasize that very gruesome fact. And what's worse is that black women, I feel, are put at the forefront of these horrendous scenarios, and they make an example out of this to promote a narrative, one that's always beneficial to the larger society and never favorable to black people. And you guys, this is why I go so hard for black women, because I feel like if we don't have their back unconditionally, then they're just left to fend for themselves, and that's unacceptable to me. And I also want to point this out before I get started reading this article because, as always, I state in each and every one of my videos that repetition is the best teacher. It's really sad that this conversation has to be brought up at all as opposed to it just being naturally instinctive, but it's so messed up that only a handful of black men understand this concept that black women must be protected. And this isn't some advanced form of calculus. It shouldn't take an astrophysicist to come up with some intricate complex formula for you to know that the women and children of any community are to be guarded with your lives because they are vital to your lineage and help to preserve the cultural heritage of your people. And for the black men who believe that their own women are not deserving of protection, I really want you to ask yourselves why it is you have such a disdain for yourselves, because you cannot disassociate yourself from your community. No matter how far removed you are from yourself, other communities and cultures of people will be quick to remind you that you are black. And to deny who you are as a person, your entire existence, suggests that you harbor an insurmountable quantity of internalized hatred and inferiority for yourself. And some will even say this black woman deserved it, and I'm going to tell you now that those with that belief are the absolute worst, and I don't see you as a black man. I see you as a coward, weak, and pathetic. Make sure you guys please check out ashkickin.com for all of your healthcare and beauty products. This is a black-owned business, and all of their products are handmade, so you can be assured that you're getting quality products for your purchase. And the best part is, if you use my code ChrisMoore1, you will get a 15% discount on your purchase at checkout. So please go and check out ashkickin.com. Let's go ahead and get into this article. So it starts off by saying a video has surfaced that shows dozens of Philadelphia police officers in riot gear surrounding a black family's SUV before forcibly pulling a 28-year-old woman, her teenage nephew, and hearing impaired toddler son out of the vehicle. According to the Philadelphia Inquirer, the ordeal was about 10 blocks and less than 12 hours removed from officers shooting and killing Walter Wallace Jr. The 27-year-old black man died in a hail of 14 bullets Monday, October 26, in a police killing that's once again sparked national outcry. The latest video was taken in the aftermath of the uproar surrounding his death. It was a show of aggression live streamed October 27th by April Rice, a 30-year-old woman who was capturing a pre-dawn exchange between protesters and riot police from her rooftop. Officers with batons surrounded an SUV, busted out its windows, then yanked the driver and passenger from the vehicle. They threw them both to the ground, then pulled a toddler from the back seat. Well, let me just stop here. It has to be petrifying and startling for not only a child to have to visually observe this behavior right before their eyes, and it happened to their mom, but also for it to be a special needs child makes this entire situation that much more infuriating, because children with a disability, depending on the nature of their condition, have a unique perception of the world. So this should make everyone watching this video extremely livid at this point, if you're not already. I want you guys to pay attention to something else. Notice how the article appears to make mention of the black man who lost his life somewhere nearby. And I'm telling you, this is very strategic. If we are talking about a black woman going through an unfortunate circumstance in front of innocent children, why was there any need to make mention of an incident unrelated to this one? And this is why in the beginning of the video I foreshadowed this element for a reason, because even though this is my first time reading this article, I know how certain narratives are conveniently put out in an effort to achieve a desired outcome. But these social interactions are what overshadow the plight black women face, because here it is, we're talking about her experience, and then this other situation is just suddenly thrown in to take attention from her story. And some of you may even have the compulsion to say that it's no big deal. So, okay, if that's the case, why was there any need to mention it? It could have been its own separate article, and it leads to another conversation about the amount of black male worship that permeates throughout our community. But that's for another video. I can really go into that, but I want to focus on this black woman and her story. I don't know if you guys remember, but not too long ago, there was a black family in Aurora, Colorado that went through a similar scenario where police pulled weapons on a black woman, Brittany Gilliam, and her 4 children. And this is why I wish we had our own police force that was specific to black people, where we police our own neighborhoods, because I see through this. This is classic exertion of power over an oppressed race of people, and they really get a kick out of this when it's not only a black person, but it's also a black woman that they feel like they're asserting their dominance over. This sick, twisted, and demented mentality is what black people need to be aware of. For all of these good cops that I keep hearing about, I think we need to throw that out the door, because I'm not seeing it. Concerning the behavior of these police officers, it's clear to me that a lot of them are products of children who most likely were probably bullied in their youth or faced some aversive event where they internalized that anger of not being strong enough to fight back and are now projecting said anger out on black people. And it's absurd. For those who don't know, it's simple to become a police officer, and to my knowledge, it's like a 6-month program of intense durability and other various forms of training that they go through. But to me, I think they need to make the criteria even more excruciating, because anyone can say anything to get a job. I think continuous and repetitious cycles of psychiatric evaluation should be had over the course of their training, and the length of time to become a police officer should be 2 years. This way, an extensive period of time has passed. I don't even know if this alone would decrease police brutality, because if it is embedded in your DNA to propagate tyranny, then by that design, you will intuitively act on those aggressions regardless of any training. So that's why all of that diversity recognition and training BS doesn't work in areas where institutionalized racism occur, because those are the breeding grounds for that behavior to flourish. And the bottom line is, this was deplorable. I don't think this should happen to any black woman or black child. This is why I reiterate that we are living among savages and barbarians, because these actions are brutal and vicious in nature, and to me, it's reminiscent of untamed animals. But let me read some more of this. So it says, the driver was identified Friday as Rakia Young, a 28-year-old home healthcare aide. The passenger was her 16-year-old nephew, and the child in the back seat was Young's 2-year-old son. Young has retained Philadelphia civil rights attorneys Kevin McKenzie and Riley H. Ross III, who staged a press conference Friday, October 3rd. The attorneys are preparing to file a civil lawsuit against the Philadelphia Police Department, the Inquirer reported. Mincy said Young was beaten, bloody, detained for hours, and police refused to tell her where they had taken her toddler son. She was not charged, but the ordeal was traumatizing, according to her attorneys. Every time she sees a police officer the last couple of days, she's worried that they're coming for her. Mincy said during Friday's press conference, her son, even though he is hearing impaired and still developing his speech, is definitely showing some signs of trauma. See, this is what I was telling you guys about. Rice's video was shared by activists and quickly spread throughout social media, according to the Inquirer, who received a 2-minute recording of the ordeal. One user's post had over 3.1 million views on Twitter by Friday. I'm really glad this black woman has decided to take legal action against this police department. Again, like I stated, their actions were very unwarranted, and at the end of the day, pulling a 2-year-old child out of the car with such force is demonic, because only someone with iniquitous and immoral intentions, completely devoid of proper ethics or principles, could operate in such a vile way. You would have thought that these officers saw 2 bears in a lion in a car, the way they just vehemently disregarded any sympathy or compassion for a woman and her child and nephew. But like I said, we are dealing with heartless and evil-spirited people, and it's sad. It's sad because we live in this reality where we wake up every day and all we can do is just hope that we're not at the wrong place at the wrong time. And I want to know what black men are going to do about this, because not too long ago, a lot of you were gleefully posting Malcolm X quotes talking about how the black woman is the most unprotected in America. But where are you all at now? Like, this is a very real thing that black women are going through right now. And I feel like because we only post these hashtags and tweet about these things with no action, most of you are only doing this for attention because now everybody wants to jump on the bandwagon. But where's that energy when the time comes for you to actually do the protecting? There's too many social justice warriors and not enough revolutionaries, and these two terms are not interchangeable. Basically, you can talk the talk, but you can't walk the walk. What are you doing to effectively combat these occurrences? Because they're not just coming for black men, they've been coming for black women also. And so what are we doing to actually ensure that this cycle doesn't continue to repeat itself? And I swear, if you come on here talking about voting, I'm just going to delete the comment. Like, I need for you to be serious and for real. Don't play games and insult my intelligence by thinking that now, out of the past century, the larger society has developed a level of refinement for their subjugation over you, because they will never do that. If they did, then police brutality and corruption would have been vanquished generations ago. This black woman and other black women should not have to be subject to these conditions and experiences for absolutely no reason. The article mentioned that this went viral. It had over 3 million views. So clearly a lot of people are outraged by this, as they should be. And we can expect for the degenerate reprobates to defend this, because it's like, what else is new with their mentality? But for the ones who are upset genuinely over this, do something differently. Think outside the box and ask yourself, what system can I come up with or create so my women and children don't have to keep going through this? We should try and devise plans and strategies to eliminate very detrimental pathologies and have the conversations about these circumstances. And another thing, I'm so tired and cannot stress this enough, but please stop with the scapegoating behavior and rhetoric where black women are to blame in every instance. I feel like 2020 has been the aristocracy of these debased talking points, where it seems like no matter the contention, it's always a black woman's fault somehow. The sky is falling down, it's black women's fault. The meteor coming from the Andromeda galaxy is black women's fault. Oxygen on Earth disappears and we all die from asphyxiation, it's black women's fault. I mean, come on, you guys. And this sounds ridiculous with that, and that's how it sounds when accountability isn't placed where it should be. Now, this article is longer than the other ones I've read, so if you guys want to continue reading this article, you can access it. But I urge black women to be extremely careful and observant of the environment around them, because it's very dangerous out there. And the most important thing is to make sure you and your child or children are kept safe. That always takes precedence over everything else. So let me know your thoughts on this in the comment section below. Make sure you like the video, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.